Hi, I'm Mark Loepker from the National Cryptologic Museum Foundation, and I'd like to share with you today information about the cybersecurity profession and its breadth. Many people think that cybersecurity is all about just computers and sitting behind a keyboard, and it's far from that. So today I hope to give you a little insight into all the different types of jobs. And it's so relevant today. You see it in the news all the time, the attacks that are happening, even in social media, what's called a deep fake, which is where somebody can actually impose a voiceover on a film and you don't know the difference. So cybersecurity is extremely important today, and we need as many people interested in cyber as possible. Now I'm going to share my screen today to kind of walk through some slides. What I'd like to share with you is that the work roles in cybersecurity are vast. There's not only protecting data and systems and its operations, but there's the non-technical professions as well. They contribute to everything in cybersecurity from a perspective. And here's a website to see the National Initiative for Cybersecurity Education, Cybersecurity Workforce Framework. And we're going to kind of use that framework today to kind of walk you through some of these different professions. Another site that you may want to go to is the National Initiative for Cybersecurity Careers and Studies, or NICS. On that site, it not only has links to the framework, but it has links to educational resources like the Centers of Academic Excellence and their community. And it has a whole lot of other opportunities for you to look for apprenticeships potentially. So go to that site as well, the NICS site. Now the framework kind of looks at these different 7 categories of jobs. And it breaks it down into analyzing systems, collecting and operating systems, investigating, operating and maintaining, overseeing and governing, protect and defend, and securely provisioning. Each one of those specialties you can draw down and understand a little bit more about what's in that particular category. Let's say investigate. There's cyber investigations and digital forensics. These particular jobs aren't necessarily behind the computer. It's a lot of investigative type skill sets. Think of forensics in the normal physical sense of a police force or an FBI force that would be doing forensics in a physical environment. We need those same talents and skills in the digital environment too. And so when you go to this site, you can see the aspects of those job descriptions. Let's take a look at the cyber crime investigator. And if you notice, it identifies, collects, examines, and preserves evidence. I'm not behind a computer for that. So what I want you to take away from this talk primarily is that there's lots of different jobs in the cyber, just not sitting behind the computer. The opportunity here and the abilities is be able to find and navigate the dark web and to look at those resources in the markets and the forums. So you're thinking like an adversary. You're having to do that investigative work. So not only are you looking on the internet and using computers, but you're using your curiosity to find out what is going on and who is trying to exploit the environment. And then you can drill down on what are the capability indicators. You obviously have the abilities, the knowledge, the skills, and the tactics, but what are the capability indicators? What are the things that are needed for an entry level, an intermediate level, and an advanced level? And it can talk about that you really don't need an education, a college education at the entry level. At the intermediate level, you may need a bachelor's degree. And these are some of the sciences that you could get the bachelor's degree in. So it's not all just computer science. In the non-technical examples, for the cyber legal advisor, you have multidiscipline language analysts. So the knowledge of various different languages that are spoken by the adversary, you need to understand those languages. And from a developer and manager standpoint. So this tool gives you the opportunity to really drill down and see the vast expanse of different professions within cyber and see what interests you. Now, is there a market for this? Are there jobs for this? I can tell you there are. In fact, if you go to cyberseek.org, you will see this tool, which is an excellent tool. It's supported by, it's run by NIST, supported by some really good practitioners, as you see, CompTIA, Burning Glass, and the National Initiative for Cybersecurity Education, or NICE. Those are the folks who participate. But what it provides is where all the job openings are, and it categorizes them within the framework. So the two are competitive, and you can then take a look at not only the framework, but where you can find those jobs within that framework. It looks at all the different certifications that you might need. It's going to tell you how much you can make. It's going to look at the different pathways to get through the entry level, the intermediate level, and the advanced level. And it'll be able to say you can start out in one profession, but you can end up lots of different places. And we're going to take a look at that. Now, educators and career counselors are using this site, and you can use this site too to determine what kind of activities you would like to do. They use a heat map, which shows you where all the different jobs are. Now, if you go to the site today, just to let you know how rapidly the job openings are happening. As you see here, there's 313,000 jobs opening. If you go to the site today, you're going to find that there's over 500,000 jobs opening today. So constantly go back to this site. It is live, and it constantly is updated on where these particular jobs are. Now, in that heat map, it's going to break it down by the 7 categories of the framework. And you see the framework right here in the categories, and it's going to be able to tell you how many jobs in each one of those categories of the framework that you can achieve. You can actually break down by state. Here we've taken a look at Georgia. And again, these numbers are old numbers. If you go today, it'll be a lot higher than 11,000 job openings. It'll tell you what those top security job titles might be. And it tells you how many people are currently working in that career field in Georgia right now. This slide says it's about 25,000 people working in that environment. But you can click on any of these states and see what that particular state has it. And so in using this heat map, you can see in the categories of the framework where those jobs lie, and you can see where the different certification holders are and what type of certifications you may need for that job, and what are some of the titles that you might find. Here's an IT auditor, a cybersecurity consultant, a software developer, an engineer, a network engineer or an architect, a vulnerability analyst. So you can see that there's many, many different jobs in cybersecurity today. The other part of this site, besides the interactive map, is a thing they call the career pathways. Now, this is the site I like, the side of the site that I like the best, because you can take a look at a specific job like networking, and from that, you can see where that job fades into. So in networking, you need those type of skills to be a cybersecurity security specialist. And also if you're a system engineer or a security intelligence or financial and risk analyst, all those types of basic skills can feed this particular job at the entry level for a cybersecurity specialist or technician. What this site then says is what that flows into. So in the intermediate mid-level, that skill set can flow into all 3 of these job sets. And you see, again, these numbers are low. Go to the site today. You'll see that this one is $75,000 a year, is the entry level amount of money. Now, you can do lots of different jobs and approach this from a different perspective. You can come into the cybersecurity workforce in apprenticeship programs. And what that means is that you are going to school and you're doing the work, and you're doing on-job training, so to speak. So coming out of high school, if that's where your educational environment is, you can take some certification courses and enter into a career as an apprentice and improve your skills and learn while you go. From high school, you can go to community colleges and gain some additional knowledge at the 2-year schools that then help you get some other jobs. Or you can go the traditional 4-year degree program. So these programs help you get involved in cybersecurity. To give you a little bit of example of my history in cybersecurity, I've been doing it now for about 30 years. I started in computer security when it was called that back in 1990, and it progressed forward to today. In that environment that I have been brought up in, I was an engineer. I developed systems, I engineered networks. Also during that time, I did what is called a risk analysis. I was a risk analyst. In a risk analyst job, you take a look at the adversary. What are the attack paths of your system? What can an adversary take advantage of? You then design countermeasures to thwart that adversary. You look at different intrusion detection systems that you can put in place so that you can understand when the adversary is actually attacking you. And then you develop and study and analyze and come up with the best way to spend your money. Because it always comes down to how much money you have. So you're looking at what countermeasures to buy that provide you the best protection and defense against that protection, against that potential adversary. So that's kind of the risk analyst job. I then moved into policy, in writing policy on computer security. How are we going to protect the systems? What are the requirements? If you look at the National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST, they have a series called the 800 series. And in that series is a document called 853. In that document, it'll show you all the different controls, the possibilities you could use to protect your systems. Policy developers then determine what is the minimum amount of controls for a particular level system and for a particular type of operation. So in the policy environment, I had to use my skills of talking with people and negotiating with people, doing deep dives on what the technology could provide and what we would definitely want to see in a solution. And then we would have that policy, people would follow that policy, and then we would evaluate the end solution to determine if in fact they met that policy. So that's another aspect of cybersecurity, of policy. And then also in doing the policy environment, there was the legislative part. I had the opportunity to work down on the Hill with legislators on what we should be putting in law. Cybersecurity law is nascent right now. There's not a whole lot of cyber law today. So we need people who want legal aspects and to look at what should be done, not only on a United States standpoint, but the international stage, on what we should look at for cyber law internationally. And then how would you adjudicate that law? How would you enforce that law, et cetera? So those are other attributes of cybersecurity that are available to somebody who's interested in this career field. So the career field is extremely broad. I have not found an interest that is not available somehow in cybersecurity. And here's one, a library scientist. I had a library scientist say, well, I probably can't find a place in cyber. I said, yes, you can. If you look at a data farm, look at Amazon, look at Microsoft, all the cloud industry. What is that? It's just a big library of data that needs to be curated, it needs to be stored, it needs to be annotated, it needs to be retrieved. That's library science. And so those people who have that knowledge of how to track data, label the data, retrieve the data, protect the data, make sure that you've got the right data, those are all library sciences. So you can see that the breadth of cybersecurity is extremely broad. So I ask you to take a look. Go to these resources, cyberseek.org, go to NIST and look at the NICE career framework and do the research. If you go to the Centers of Academic Excellence community, that's where all the schools are. You've got the non-traditional schools that do certifications like CAMPTIA, SANS, they'll provide you the training you need. So we welcome you into this field and we wish you the best. Thank you.